Greetings and welcome to my first live Wednesday ramblings in a number of weeks as I once more settle into parish life and begin to work on the next message series, following on from We're Called to Be Shepherds, to this new message series, What Does It Mean to Belong? It comes out of a gospel passage that we actually don't hear for another couple of weeks towards the end of this season when we're listening to chapter 6 of John's Gospel, where some of the disciples turn up their noses and say, "This is intolerable language, we can't accept it," and they walk away. And then Jesus turns to the disciples and says, "And what about you?" And Peter says, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life." So what does it mean to belong? Sometimes it's quite challenging to accept all that Jesus teaches and to even really fully grasp it. And some research has shown that less than half the Catholic congregation, especially those who are in the pews, not counting those who no longer come to Mass very often, but those in the pews, fully understand that when we celebrate the Eucharist, Jesus is truly present amongst us. So there is this question that floats through the whole of chapter 6 of John's Gospel, at least the parts that make up this 3 or 4 weeks of our Gospel, which challenges to ask the question, what does it mean to really accept? What does it mean to really understand so that I can fully belong? But belonging comes in lots of different ways. In my homily this weekend, I relate the story of a visit I made during my holidays to a winery on the Mornington Peninsula. I enjoyed the visit and I enjoyed some of the different kinds of wine types that were produced there. And as I was looking through my emails, I found an invitation to look at some of the other wines from this particular vineyard. And as I was looking, I found a particular wine called Cato. And Cato is made by the founder of the vineyard, Gary Crittenden, who looked at these particular grapes from Italy and wanted to see what he could do with them. And he's made this particular wine called, as I said, Cato. Now, I ordered some of those because in a few weeks' time, I'm going to invite, or the priests of the southern region will be coming here for a Saturday lunch. And I decided that I would like to do a really solid spaghetti bolognese or lasagna. I haven't quite finalized that, but it will be heavily tomato based. And I wanted to do something really strong. And this particular wine goes well with rich tomato flavoring. On Tuesday morning, the day after I'd ordered the wines, I had a phone call and it said Rosebud on the caller ID. And I answered, and Andrew, who works in their wine cellar, in their cellar door, asked first of all, after I said who I was, "How did the rest of your holidays go?" Now, I'd only spoken to Andrew for the brief 30, 40 minutes that I was in the cellar room, sharing some of the wines that they had and experiencing some of the different flavors of the wines. And yet he had taken the time to remember that I was on holidays and that I was traveling to various other parts of Victoria and New South Wales. And he had the gift of being able to remember me in order to ask that question, how did the rest of your holidays go? A sense of well-being, a sense of belonging was part of that story. Now, in the gospel, we're told today that the Jews looked at Jesus and said, "How can he call himself bread from heaven? We know who he is. He's part of our community. We know where he comes from." They didn't take the time to hear or understand what he was about. Andrew at Crittenden's did that for me. And so I had the opportunity to just celebrate what it meant to belong, even though it's a very loose, linked kind of relationship. But it had a sense of reality about it. And I wonder how many of us, when we get to Mass on a Sunday, have that real sense of belonging, that somebody knows my story, is willing to ask about my story, and wanting to share something of the journey. Jesus is inviting us to go much deeper than just saying, is this about Jesus? Is this about bread? Is this about, and to really get to the depth of the story. This is Jesus wanting us to share in his gift of life, to know that if we eat the bread of life, we will have eternal life. And that truly is the absolute richness, fullness, reward for belonging. So, what does belonging mean to you? Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And hopefully, if you look through my homily this weekend, if you listen, I might be able to challenge you even further to think about what it does mean to belong. God bless. Have a great week.